Good afternoon. We are one community, and the loss of one is a loss to us all. My name is Alex Ubaez. I'm a United States Attorney here in the District of New Mexico, and on behalf of the United States of America, the Department of Justice, I offer my condolences to the Hare family, friends, community, brothers and sisters who stand with me here today, as well as those victims who have yet to find closure in South Carolina. I'm here to announce this afternoon that Jaremy Smith pleaded guilty to 5 federal felony crimes as charged by indictment here in the District of New Mexico, that being carjacking resulting in death, discharge of a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence, kidnapping resulting in death, prohibited person in possession of a firearm, and the possession of a stolen firearm. I want to extend my gratitude to Secretary Bowie, Chief Wiesler of New Mexico State Police, to the FBI, to the men and women of State Police, Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, Quay County Sheriff's Office, and to my prosecutors and staff for their bravery in the face of despair. To my law enforcement partners, you made good on your promise to find Smith over a year ago, and today we make good on ours to hold him accountable. I'm going to first give the microphone to Hare's parents, Jim and Terry, for a couple of words. Jim, Terry.
Just want to say that I'm glad the sorry excuse of a human being owned up to what he did. It's been 10 long months to get to this point. I don't know where Terry and I would be if it wasn't for the great New Mexico State police officers that constantly checked in on us and made us part of their family. We are also grateful for the wonderful staff of the New Mexico U.S. Attorney's Office for keeping us informed throughout this endeavor. We have a long way to go to get justice for our son, and we will continue to fight for him until our dying days.
Today was just a baby step of the steps that we're going to take. No family should have to go through this, especially the family of a first responder of any kind. We got your back, you guys. We got your back, and we're going to fight for all law enforcement officers and first responders. This isn't over yet.
FBI Special Agent in Charge, Raul Buhanda.
I want to start by sharing my deepest condolences on behalf of the FBI extended family to the families of Officer Justin Hare and Phoenicia Machado IV. If I'm completely honest, I wish that we weren't here today. I wish that such evil would not exist in our world, and yet it does. I wish I could have met Justin and Phoenicia. I wish I could have warned them about Jaremy Smith. All too often, first responders are called upon to go into the worst of situations, and they do it without pause. They do it without regard to their own personal lives and well-being. The FBI will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to make sure that such violent individuals, grotesque individuals, are no longer amongst us. This is not a threat. It's a promise to do everything we can to rid our world of these degenerates that walk amongst us, that walk free amongst us. And there's a place to them, and it's not here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Invite Cabinet Secretary, Department of Public Safety, Jason Bowie.
First, I want to start off thank you all for being here. I want to acknowledge Justin Hare's family. We really admire their strength and courage, not only for speaking today, but throughout this entire process. New Mexico State Police will continue to stand with them, as this, again, is just the very first step. Also to the family of Phoenicia Mikado 4, we understand this is just one step in the entire process. We hope that this one step is a positive outcome for you all as well towards your healing. And I can't imagine the road they're on. I want them to know that we stand with them as well. And with that, I would ask the community, our law enforcement partners, to continue keeping the surviving families in their thoughts and prayers. Just a quick message to New Mexico State Police. Though clearly they've been grieving throughout this entire process, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank them. They haven't missed a step since the death of Officer Hare. Their continued service to New Mexico, and we commend them for their dedication and their commitment. And obviously they have a strong presence here today. We appreciate them very much for their service. I want to thank our law enforcement partners, local, state, and federal partners from the onset of this incident and through today. They have stood with us. Can't thank them enough for their support and their partnership. I want to put emphasis on Quake County, who was there at the very onset as Officer Hare was slain, and BCSO credited for taking the suspect into custody, and not to forget the store clerk, who showed tremendous courage and devotion to her community by notifying us of Smith's location. I want to particularly thank the Federal Bureau of Investigations for partnering in this investigation. We are grateful for the men and women of the FBI for their expertise and their professionalism. Equally, we are grateful to the U.S. Attorney's Office for adopting and prosecuting this case. SSC Buhanda, United States Attorney Alex Ubayas, we really appreciate your commitment and your partnership. Thank you for everything that you guys have done and for your team. Today marks a significant step in the healing process, but I want people to understand that it doesn't end here. We have a lot more work to do. We will stand together with the family at sentencing, as today was only the guilty plea. We have more work to do as an agency as we add Justin's name to the memorial wall in Santa Fe, and as we travel to Washington, D.C. to honor him and the surviving families. But we have a lot of work to do as a state as well, and I want people to remember that. Frankly, we shouldn't have to depend on the U.S. Attorney's Office to ensure repeat offenders like Smith with extensive violent criminal histories to remain locked up behind bars. We should have a robust criminal system here in the state that would guarantee the same equal time at the state level. Currently as it stands, and in this case and cases similar in nature, we are guaranteed more time on federal charges than at state time for murdering a police officer. It's completely unacceptable. Every day across our nation, law enforcement officers put themselves out there to apprehend violent offenders each and every day. Particularly in New Mexico, the majority of them are released almost immediately to reoffend. These are not the outcomes that New Mexicans expect. Over the last 6 months, the administration has been traveling to every corner of New Mexico to have town halls and to listen to the community to see what their concerns are. And it's been overwhelming concern from the people of New Mexico that they don't feel safe, that they're frustrated, they're tired of crime, and more particularly, tired of violent crime. In the last 48 hours, we've lost 2 law enforcement officers in neighboring states. Additionally, the U.S. Marshal has been shot and is still recovering. I have no doubt that this hero will return to duty to do what these men and women do each and every day as soon as he's ready. On a national level, we lose 150 cops, roughly, on an annual basis. Those are not the ones that are injured in the line of duty. These are the ones that we lose. And out of those 150, about 60 of them are to violent crime. Stabbings, shooting, vehicular assault. We should be absolutely outraged by this number. We should be standing together as a community, making sure that we see change. And we lose these officers because they're out there each and every day, attempting their very best to apprehend the same offenders over and over and over. And as if these losses weren't significantly enough, the same criminals are perpetrating crimes against members of our community, the people that we have sworn to protect. So again, we have a lot of work to do as our state, and I encourage lawmakers to take a serious look at our broken system and to make bold changes to hold criminal in jail to account for their crimes. Now again, this is not a criticism of any one part of the criminal justice system. And certainly we can all do better, and that's law enforcement included. I have no doubt that the governor will be addressing these concerns in her State of the State address and throughout the legislative session. Frankly, these are issues that we all should be unified on. This is not a political issue. These are community issues. These are public safety issues for all of us to consider. I'm asking legislators to come together on these issues to find meaningful solutions in the next 60 days. Again, this is not a criticism of any one part of the system, and it's not a criticism of our legislators. DPS, State Police, we promise you we stand together on this issue, and we look forward to working with anyone on a meaningful change. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. And maybe while you shouldn't have to rely on the United States Attorney's Office, you always can. Us in the FBI and our other sister components within the Department of Justice, we live here. This is our community too, and we will continue to serve it. To close this out, I'll have Chief Troy Weisler say a few words.
So I just want to wrap this up by echoing many of the sentiments that you've already heard here today. I want to express my gratitude to all of our law enforcement partners and the community for their unwavering support in ensuring that Jaremy Smith was brought to justice. Jaremy Smith will never take another breath as a free man, and rightfully so. There is no place in our society for cold-blooded killers, which is exactly what he is. A ruthless murderer who took the lives of two of this country's finest servants. An attack on our first responders, on those who selflessly serve our community, is an attack on all of us. There is no place in our society for those types of actions, and today shows that we will not stand for it. While today cannot bring Justin back, I hope that it provides his family and his friends with some measure of peace as they continue to heal and we move forward. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Chief, and I may have buried the lead here, but Jaremy Smith will serve a lifetime in prison without the possibility of parole in the federal system for the crimes that he pled guilty to here today in the District of New Mexico. Now, a life sentence for a life taken doesn't make our community whole, but the best way to honor Justin Hare's life is to take care of one another. Every day, the people up here behind me commit themselves to the people of New Mexico. Today, I commit myself, and I recommit myself to the people here. I do so in the memory of a brave state police officer whose final act was to help another. In honor of the hundreds of law enforcement officers who worked around the clock to protect this community and to do justice for their fallen brother. And in the footsteps of two brave gas station clerks, everyday citizens who did the right thing in the face of clear and present danger. It's time for us as a community to join these strangers who did the right thing for people they never met. I'm proud to be a member of this community. I thank you all for standing up for each other. I'll take a few questions if there are any. Yes, ma'am.
At one point, the death penalty was on the table. Was that taken off the table in order to get this plea agreement done?
That's correct. So several of the charges from the indictment are death eligible. The process is an internal one that involves the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, signing off on whether to seek or not seek a death penalty punishment. And so that was part of the process of this case, but this plea agreement was reached after that determination was made. Yes, sir.
And then, because everybody wasn't in there, can you explain the other case in South Carolina that the death penalty may be on the table?
Yes, sir. And so I'm not going to speculate too much about jurisdictions where I don't practice, but there are multiple other pending cases. One actually here in the state of New Mexico. New Mexico State has charges. One in the state of South Carolina. South Carolina State has charges. There's also potential charges, federal charges in the state of South Carolina. All three of those jurisdictions and their charges are still outstanding. Some of those, including the federal charges and the South Carolina state charges, to my understanding, could potentially result in a sentence of death. Yes, sir.
Why did the U.S. Attorney's Office here choose not to seek the death penalty, or why take that off the table?
Sure. First of all, we don't get to make the decision. It's one owned by the Attorney General. But there's an internal process that involves the review of a number of things. It's outlined in our Justice Manual, including consultation with the families and survivors, analysis of the facts, analysis of the law. A number of other factors is outlined in the Justice Manual we do internal and confidential briefings about it, and the Attorney General makes a final decision that he lets us know about. Once we have that, then we proceed with the case.
May I ask the state police chief a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, you are 10 months later. To that plea agreement going on.
I'll just say it's a little surreal. I mean, you go into court and everybody was in there. You listen to 40 minutes of legalese, so you have this officer's life. It's very emotional, tragic events. Like I say, it's just kind of surreal, and then kind of have it broken down into this very formal process. I mean, I understand that there's a reason we do it that way, but I also think it's somewhat too bad because it kind of impersonalizes, Officer Hare. But I think that we'll have the opportunity to make sure that he's personalized and remembered properly when we get to the sentencing hearing, and the family and some other members get to speak. So I think that's when we'll really get the full feel of the event. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Over, Chief.
Oh, Chief.
Sorry, Chief. Can you, because we're not allowed to go in there with cameras, can you describe the sea of wall of state police officers supporting the Hare family?
Yes, sir. So I mean, it was great to have all of the supports. Obviously me and my staff we're gonna be here. We were gonna have strong state police presence, but we put the word out to the field that anybody that wanted to come would be able to come, and I think that you can see by the sea of black and gray behind us that the response was outstanding. It would have been even greater if obviously we didn't have men and women that need to be doing their jobs out in the communities around the state right now. But no, that courtroom, it was good to see all the support, all the black and gray, as well as all our FBI partners. There was a very large contingent of them as well. They might have nice suits, but they're not quite as sharp as seeing all the officers in uniform. So, but it was great to see all the support.
Mr. Baez, they mentioned in court that there was a 6th count and that it was taken off. What was that count and why was it taken off?
Let me read to you. It was regarding the stolen vehicle, and it was negotiated out of the plea agreements of the 6 counts that he pled to. And let me just find it for you real quick. Interstate transportation of a stolen motor vehicle. Yes, ma'am.
I had the same question.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, for context, I think it has up to 10 years potential incarceration as a penalty. Yes, ma'am.
If hypothetically in South Carolina they do pursue the death penalty, how would that fall in line with whatever sentencing he gets here?
He would be under the directions of this court in the sentence here, regardless of how that case proceeds. As you might be familiar, the death penalty cases unfortunately take a long time to litigate and process. Not just through trial and sentencing, where you may or may not receive the death penalty, but after that in appeals. And so what this case gives us is the certainty that regardless of what happens in that trial or what happens in that sentencing, Mr. Smith will never see the light of day and walk with us again. Yes, ma'am.
Everyone kind of mentioned that this is the first step, and I know next, of course, is sentencing, and there was a mention of hoping lawmakers can kind of help you guys, but what will your offices do, I guess, post this first step, if this is the first one?
Sure. I mean, in terms of the legal process, there's a sentencing hearing, and as for those of you who are up there, it really was the judge and some of our attorneys reading off a number of legalese, statutes and rules, components and facts. That is so that we can formalize this contract, which is what a plea is, and get it accepted by the judge. The next step is sentencing. Sentencing is where we will have a much longer presentation, and as the chief said, a humanization of this case. And that's where the victims and the friends and the co-workers will get to express the impact of what happened on them. This is where the judge gets to hear from the people and the community about what this case meant. And so that is procedurally what happens next. As I interjected earlier, the United States Attorney's Office makes a big priority here in the District of New Mexico of stepping in and assisting, especially with violent crime. We have an entire division here in our Albuquerque office called the Violent Crime Division. We have agreements with our local district attorneys and relationships with district attorneys across the nation, or across the district, excuse me, where we look every single day at cases that are charged in the state, and we evaluate them for federal prosecution. We do so because we often have a larger hammer and better procedural rules to get to justice quicker and more effectively than our state counterparts. And so we are full partners in this city, full partners in this state as it comes to the fight against violent crime. Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Bowie. The legislative session is next week. You did mention we've seen several police officers killed in the line of duty. I can name probably 4 in the last year and a half, 2 years here in New Mexico. Are you asking anything from the state when it comes to the session to make sure this stops? These felons stay behind bars, these criminals stay behind bars?
I appreciate the question very much. I'm not a lawyer. I can't work through all of the nuances of what's required in statute. I can tell you in generally we're failing in the system, right? I'm still of the belief that if you commit a felony, you're going to do jail time. It's what keeps me straight, right? It keeps most of us here keeps us behaving. But I don't know why I still believe that, because at the end of the day, we have people that reoffend and commit felonies over and over again, and they're walking the streets and they're not held accountable. And so, there's a lot of discussion, of course, about people want to see wraparound services and they want to see mental health services, and I agree with that to a degree. But you always have to hold people accountable at the same time. And so it's that piece of accountability that I'm frustrated with within the state. And so absolutely people need services as well, but there are people that reoffend, and there has to be some accountability for that. And it's not just about the officers that are killed in the line of duty, it's the ones that are severely injured as well. We have those standing out here right now that have been injured in the line of duty, and by the grace of, they weren't murdered. We need to do absolutely more. I can't understand why we need to, again, rely on the U.S. Attorney's Office in order to have firm, strong legislation so that criminals within New Mexico can stay behind bars. I think every community is fed up with it, and I would like to see more. What's going to be introduced, in large part, that'll be, of course, in part up to the legislators, maybe up to the governor as well. But we support any meaningful legislation that would hold people incarcerated for a period of time to hold accountable for the crimes they commit.
Anything else? Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.